One, I want to apologize. Sorry, we're starting late. Good afternoon. The Memphis Landmarks Commission is hereby called to order for its regularly scheduled meeting of February 27th, 2025. My name is Brown Gill, and I'm the chair of the commission. Mr. Brett Ragsdale serves as the executive secretary of the commission. Mr. Ragsdale, may I get a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Ms. Boyd? Here. Ms. Love?
Here.
Ms. Tolbert?
Here.
Mr. Winter?
Here.
And Chair Gill?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. The Memphis Landmarks Commission and the local historic district provisions are established to ensure preservation of structures that are of historic value to Memphis. Our function is to preserve significant resources, enhance community pride, and foster civic beauty, and enhance compatibility with designated historic districts. The Commission is authorized to review projects and determine their appropriateness based on the design review guidelines. At this time, I'd like to swear in the staff. You may remain seated. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. May I get a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting?
So moved. Second, yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None. Motion passes. Mr. Secretary, please provide us the Secretary's report if there is one this month, and then explain the procedures for this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a secretary's report, so I'll go into the procedure. I will introduce each case as listed on the agenda. Copies of the agenda are found at the right podium. For each case, staff with the Division of Planning and Development will give a presentation. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present his or her case. After the applicant's presentation, the commission will hear first from those speakers in support of the application, then from those speakers in opposition to the application, and the speakers will have 3 minutes each. And then finally, the applicant will have 3 minutes to provide rebuttal. These times do not include time for questions from and answers to members of the commission. The chair may provide additional time provided both sides are given an equal amount of additional time. All parties that wish to speak to provide testimony to the commission will be sworn in by the chair. If a member of the audience wishes to provide testimony in support of or in opposition to a particular case on today's agenda, he or she will need to fill out the speaker's cards for the record. Speaker's cards are available at the front podium. Once filled out, speaker's cards can be submitted to any DPD planner at the left podium. We do not need speaker's cards from the applicant since their names are already part of the record. After all parties have been heard, the commission will close the public hearing, make a motion, and then deliberate on the case. All motions by this commission will be made in the affirmative. The bylaws governing the commission require the affirmative vote of a majority of the attending members to approve an application. The commission may also vote to hold an application for a period of 1 month. Mr. Chairman, I submit that all cases have been filed in proper order, all applicants have been notified of this hearing, and all notice requirements have been fulfilled.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. At this point, the commission will establish a consent agenda. To establish the consent agenda, the secretary will call out each eligible case. If any member of the audience or the commission objects to a case being placed on the consent agenda, he or she should do so by a show of hands when the secretary reads the case. Once the consent agenda is established, the commission will vote on all cases placed on the consent agenda as a whole and will not hold individual public hearings on each case. Mr. Secretary, which items on our agenda are eligible to be on consent?
Item number 1, COA 2024-155, 2149 Brown Avenue in the Valentine Evergreen Historic District. Item number 3, COA 2025-001, 1079 North Evergreen Street in the Valentine Evergreen Historic District. Item number 4, COA 2025-002, 960 Rowland Street in the Roselle-Ansdale Historic District. Item number 5, COA 2025-003, 931 Seattle Street in the Roselle-Ansdale Historic District. And item number 8, COA 2025-006, 1125 Rayner Street in the Glenview Historic District.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as established by the Secretary?
So moved.
I'd like to remind the commission that by voting on the consent agenda, he or she affirms that he or she has read the staff report and is in full agreement with the conditions. Mr. Secretary, may I get a roll call?
And did we get a second on that? I didn't hear.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Did seven on the consent agenda? So right now it's 2, 6, and 9 we're hearing. 2,
9. I was going to note after this that we do have 2 items that are held, and that's item number 6 and item number 7.
Okay.
So we will hear 2 and 9.
Okay.
All right.
May I get a roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Winter,
Yes.
Ms. Tolbert,
Yes.
Ms. Boyd, Ms. Love,
Yes.
Chair Gill.
Yes.
Motion carries.
If you're here for any of those cases just listed on the consent agenda, you have been approved. You do not need to remain at the meeting, but are welcome to stay the remainder of the cases. If you're not, so we're hearing 2 and 9, 6 and 7 have been held. Everything else has been approved. So if you're not one of the 2 and 9, you don't have to stay, but you're welcome to. At this point, I'd like to state that the minor COA applications as listed on the agenda have been reviewed and approved by the commission. The commission will now continue with the regular agenda, the regular hearing of the major COA applications as listed on the regular agenda. Mr. Secretary, would you please call the first regular agenda case?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we don't believe that the applicant is here, but I will call it item number 2, COA 2024-157, 1727 Euclid Avenue in the Roselle-Ansdale Historic District.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Is the applicant present? I guess. Don't see anyone.
Okay. So,
You want to we'll push it to the end and see.
yes.
All right, item number 9, Mr. Secretary.
COA 2025-007, 1063 North Evergreen Street in the Valentine Evergreen Historic District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Thanks. Margo, okay, right here. Could you come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record?
Terrence Wright, it's 1063 Evergreen.
Thank you, Terrace. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Have you had any chance to read the staff report?
Yes, sir.
And do you agree or disagree with the conditions? Do you agree with the conditions that are in the staff report?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, I think that the applicant would like to discuss the conditions, correct?
So there's some conditions you'd like to
Yes, sir.
discuss? Okay. We'll just sit down. What we'll do is we'll hear a staff report, and then we'll have you come back up and you can respond. Margo.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Margo Payne with DPD. This is a minimal traditional style cottage in Valentine Evergreen built in 1946. The home had a previously unpainted brick exterior and wood siding in the gables with a screened-in porch and original 8/8 double-hung wood windows. The applicant has painted the exposed brick, replaced the horizontal siding, replaced all the windows, and removed the porch screening and framing without building permits or a COA, resulting in a stop work order issued in September of last year. The original windows have been replaced with 1/1 double-hung windows that fit the original opening sizes, but don't match the original 8/8 grid pattern. The original front door is still in place, and as we know, the Valentine Evergreen guidelines don't allow the painting of unpainted brick or stone. So we're recommending approval of this application with 4 conditions that address all the issues I just pointed out, including repainting the exterior with appropriate colors, adding grids to the windows, and keeping the original door in place. And this concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Margo. Does anybody have any questions for Margo right now? Mr. Winter?
Thank you, Chairman Gill. Quick question, Margo. Was there any discussion about the columns?
No, well, based on the previous porch plans, I don't think that screen porch was original, but, I'm not sure. It's been there for a long time. And because the roof didn't change and the footprint didn't change, the columns are skinny, but they seem to match that original design. So no, I have not included a recommendation.
And it looks like they were in the process of painting the columns. Right now the intent is they would not be unpainted, right?
Yes, they will not be unpainted.
Okay. Just maybe a discussion point for later. The only other, well, I'll reserve my concerns for a little bit later.
Okay.
Any other questions for Margot? Could the applicant come up? Tell us about, could you put the conditions back up, Margot? You don't agree with, you agree with these 4 conditions?
I guess my concern was more so about the painting of the brick in terms of the color that the brick was painted. I'm aware of that the brick has to be painted more of an earth tone color for the neighborhood. Just prior to painting the home, in terms of the color that was selected over there, the color was kind of flowing with already what is going on over there. There's about 8 or 9 houses within the same side of the street and across the street. All are some gray that has been recently painted. I don't know if it was before the rules or not.
Did you buy this house?
Say again, sir?
Did you purchase this house, or are you working for the homeowner?
I'm working for the homeowner.
Did you know that you were in a protected neighborhood in a historic district?
Not at the time when we started, sir.
Did you think the homeowner did?
I don't think she's aware. She's a very older lady, so I don't think she's
Does she
aware.
live there? The woman
Yes, sir.
that-
She lives here. This is a home. She's just upgrading. She's been living for a while. She's not. It's not a flip or
This is
sale
not-
or rent.
gotcha.
No, sir. She's been living there 30 plus years. And just son came into a little money and wanted to upgrade his mom's house, basically.
I got you. So we run into cases like you just mentioned, like flips, and where we get the same offenders that are coming in and they don't pay any attention whether they're in a historic neighborhood or not. Thank you for giving us a little bit of color.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Anyone have questions for the applicant?
What is the biggest concern about the painting of the exterior of the home to a color? Because, I mean, we all recognize that several people have done that, which is the whole reason why this rule is now in place. So,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, so what is, I guess, the ramifications?
Just, I mean, financially, I mean, if we, go back in and take the gray off, I mean, it's a significant cost to do that, and to repaint the house a different color will cost the homeowner a significant amount of money to do. Just materials are high and the labor that it costs to do it. I mean, it's actually harder to take paint off or change a color than it is to put it on when you're first painting over brick. So it would just be a significant cost to the homeowner. It's really the only concern with it.
And I guess how significant, because I know right now the color that you chose is almost like a primer tone.
Say again now?
The color that's currently shown is more of it could fall into the realm of it being almost like a prime coat.
Nah, it's a light gray color that she picked up. It's a Sherman-Williams color. I mean, so if you paint the house, over, you're talking $6 to $7 grand to repaint the property.
6 or 7?
Yeah.
Anyone else have questions right now for the applicant? Let's hear from the opposition. Mrs. Edwards, we're going to hear from Mrs. Edwards here, who has a card in on this application.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Karen Edwards. I live at 1887 South Rainbow Drive
Thank you, Mrs. Edwards.
in the Valentine Evergreen Community Association, and I represent Valentine Evergreen. Becca really does appreciate the upgrades to this home. It's unfortunate that the applicant and this gentleman here didn't realize that it is a historic district and under specific zoning. In looking at the home, maybe the picture here, it's really difficult to tell, but it looks to be all one color. And so I would, as Becca would, recommend that the recommendations that you all have suggested, or the staff has suggested, be met. The other thing too, it is unfortunate that the porch is no longer there, but in looking at the original, it has character. If you look at the original images, it would almost be really nicer if those columns, instead of having just a single column, if there were even double, like on the corners, like you see in this image here, that would give it more character than it does with just single columns We do appreciate that that they're painted and not stained, because that would not be appropriate to our VHED guidelines. But that would be a suggestion in addition to making sure that the paint is of a color that, is just more historically representative for the community and not a single monochrome kind of color. So that's our comments.
Thank you, Mrs. Edwards. Anybody have any questions for Mrs. Edwards? Good. Did you say that? Yeah. Go ahead.
Can I ask a quick?
Yeah.
Ms. Edwards, I have a quick question for you. Just thinking about what the applicant has said and understanding how it's been painted already, do you think the neighbors have any thoughts about a middle ground on painting? Could there be something that's painted that makes it feel less monochromatic? Or is it the neighbors' opinion that it needs to be all repainted per the conditions proposed so far?
Well, I can't speak for the other homes on the street that the applicant had mentioned. I'm not certain when they were painted. We do experience a lot of bricks being painted in our historic district, which is unfortunate. And most of the cases that come in are from a stop work order. So there is education on our part, and perhaps, the cities, to get the word out about painting.
Yes, ma'am.
This to me, when I look at this, it's, there's just no character to it. It lacks depth, if you will, and if it had some additional colors added to what's there, at least to the foundation or to the fascia board, that would offset just it all being one color. So, and I'm not certain if I answered your question, but...
You did.
Okay.
That was helpful. Thank you. I appreciate
You're
your
welcome.
insight.
Thank you, Mrs. Edwards. The applicant can come back up. This is your chance to make a rebuttal or say anything else you'd like to say.
Right, so speaking to the color of the house, it's all not one color. All the fascias are white.
Okay.
So the fascia boards around the home, all the way around on the sides and to the front, all of those are white. The brick itself is that gray color, so it's not all one color. And then the columns are not finished painted because we have a stop work order. And even to her point in terms of the columns, I don't have a problem adding anything to the columns that makes it look better, or the historic look. That's easy to do. It's not very cost efficient. So if that's something that we can do to make this right or a better situation, we're willing to do that. I mean, we're just trying to get this done the most economical way and not cause any problems per se.
Thank you.
No problem.
I'm going to close any other questions for the applicant? All right. I'm going to close the public hearing portion of this case and discuss further with the commission. Can I get a motion to approve this for the purpose of discussion?
Motion to approve for the purpose of discussion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Well, what do you think?
Well,
I'll start us out. How's this look? I feel like this was somewhat unintentional. It wasn't like a house flipper. I can understand an older lady that lives in a place and that doesn't understand. I do like the column suggestion that Susan made about making it needs a base, honestly, and it needs the columns could be different. And then it's just to me, it's down to the commission whether you want to force them to paint an earth tone or leave the gray and create a base, make the house look more interesting with better columns. Maybe that match the original columns, but I'm not an architect, and we have so many great architects right here.
Is it a compromise to potentially?
Lauren, can we get on the
Speaker?
Maybe the brick. I mean, I understand needing and wanting it to follow the rules and be more of an earth tone color, but to your point about it not being intentional, and to the point about the proposed cost, maybe the brick stays the lighter gray and the base, the trim and the side, the color, the differentiation comes in those locations. I don't know.
I will say that there's been quite a bit of work done because, as you can tell, the chimney was removed. The side gable, they used to have double windows. It's now a single window. I don't even know if there's still a gable vent. I'm not sure. I can't really see from these images, and maybe someone else knows. But there was a lot of work done, like exterior and interior, on this project. So that's definitely a whole new roof, all that. So it's sad that it's just gotten caught at this point because there has been changes. Like if you look at that, even the side window up there,
I mean,
it used to be a double window, you know?
I agree. I would take it even further. It needs landscaping. Not that can we force landscaping? I mean, it just needs a base.
It's the whole plinth and everything is fine, and I do agree. Like I was like with Michael, if you look at the original porch structure, it's a grouping of 3 on the front corner, which I think should be replicated. Again, that's pretty much what gave this minimal traditional kind of home at least some character, because it's not meant to have a whole lot anyway. So the punches were the windows and the columns. That's basically all they have. So those 2 definitely should be updated, and it sounds like the applicant or the applicant's representative is okay with doing that. Along with Lauren, with the fact that, this is a gray house, unfortunately, again, and there isn't a whole lot of contrast between where the trim and the accents start and the base color ends, because it's almost in the light of day, monochromatic. So if there was a way to contrast that, because I'm sure that handling the trim will be a lot less than handling the brick as a whole, hopefully. Like,
right. Yeah, I agree with what y'all said so far. And that's why I was asking Ms. Edwards. I was trying to find middle ground in the paint. I think that's what Lauren's proposed. And I agree that, probably there needs to be something. I do appreciate your clarification, the applicant's clarification, that there is 2 different colors, but perhaps there's just not enough contrast and it does feel flat. And in conjunction with all the other, for lack of a better word, sanitization that's happened, as Ms. Love pointed out, the chimney's been removed, the windows been changed, the columns have been changed. It does present as just a lot more flat, less character. So I agree. I think if the columns are added back, so it'd be, just to clarify, there's one on each corner, but then there's one on either side of that. So like Joyce Lita said, there's a grouping of 3 on those corners that really do make a big difference in the presence on that porch. So that, and then if you paint the trim and the foundation and the base a different color that contrasts with the brick color, it has a much better chance of having some character. It's not perfect, because I think we'd all wish that brick was unpainted, and I think we'd all wish that if it is painted, it would be painted an earth tone color. But I think the commission seems to be leaning towards trying to find a compromise here, and I think that might be a good one, in my opinion.
I agree. Are we not addressing the windows at all?
oh, the windows are a given, I think.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't have an issue with the window. Oh, you mean about the new window, or just the fact that we're putting character back into the window?
What would you want to do to the
They're
one?
Just
Oh, that they're
single
not, yeah.
windows instead of 8/8.
Yeah, that's in
The-
their,
yeah, the
their
condition
conditions
says to add
already.
He is willing to add that.
That's part of the,
Assuming he didn't say anything against
Yeah.
it, so.
I think his problem was mainly about painting the brick.
all right, so just to clarify, we're talking about adding the extra columns. We're talking about, go ahead.
The applicant has a clarifying question, maybe?
Sure.
Is that okay?
Can we need to open up the, do you want to open up, is there a motion to open up the public?
Motion to open
Okay.
the
May I get a s-
discussion to public interaction.
May I get a second?
Second.
I'll say aye. Aye. Go ahead.
I just wanted to get clarification.
come to the mic, please.
Just the clarification piece on the windows. So when I read it, it said that the windows needed to have grids added. Was that what we were saying?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
So something like Ms. Boyd was just saying, that the condition reads, the applicant shall add three-dimensional exterior grids or muttons to all replaceable windows to match the original 8/8 grid pattern. So right now, the windows they're 1/1, so it's just solid glass on the top and bottom. And so the proposal is to go back and add a grill or a mutton pattern on top of that has 8 lights in the top and 8 lights in the bottom to match what's on the original photos from the house.
Okay.
And I think in this condition, Margo, this does say this is a dimensional exterior, or it's a grill that's added as opposed to simulated divided light, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It would
So
be-
that's a way less costly fix. And if you have any questions about that, you can talk to Margo about it.
Good. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, we did open the public hearing and the applicant spoke. If Ms. Edwards would like to speak, there wasn't anything but we will.
Do you have anything to add, Mrs. Edwards?
And thank you for noticing that, Ms. Selena, because I didn't notice that the window on the side had been, it's no longer a double wide window. Are we keeping, what is the recommendation? It's really difficult to hear out in the audience. Are we allowing the applicant to keep that same window that's there, or would it be replaced with the double that was on the side upstairs?
I'm personally not against it staying the way it is, as long as he adds the
muttons.
the muttons as it
Okay.
would match the rest of it, because it is not necessarily as visible from street side as much as it's
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
but I'm happy they kept the window up there, honestly.
The same opening size, yes, as two. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Motion to close.
Motion to close. Second. For discussion purposes?
For discussion purposes.
Motion to second. So can I hear, I don't even know what to say.
So we were at the point of saying or clarifying what it is. So the 3 grouping of columns
Okay.
at the corners, as the previous or the original picture kind of showed, still the same. It looks like it's about, 12 to 14 inches maybe, center to center.
Okay.
What do you think?
I'm sorry, I was reading
Yeah,
the paint condition.
Yeah.
The grouping of the way it's grouped on the corners, but something that simulates
No
that
more
kind
than
of
like
image.
16,
16 maybe.
12 to 16.
Yeah. Then we spoke about the fact of using a separate color for the contrast happening with the trim in the plinth
I'm
versus.
fine with the white trim, but I just think the base foundation needs to be a darker gray. So it'd be the bottom of the porch, the base. It just needs to have some sort of contrast.
It needs to show contrast.
It
And
just needs to show a contrast.
I'll tell you what I'm a little worried about, though, is because dark gray makes sense there because of the color that's already there, but I'm worried about it looking too cool.
yeah,
And that's the idea behind the earth tones. And if you look back at the original pictures, they're,
Totally agree.
but I don't know how to fix it without introducing
A new color.
a new color that may complicate the situation.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that that's necessarily for us to resolve. I think we can just say,
Okay, that's a good idea. Just
they
leave it up to
allow
planning.
them to come up with a color scheme or whatever, and then they send it us for administrative approval. I
Work
think
for
would
you,
be a-
Mr. Secretary?
Yes, and I think we do that quite often. We say that whatever you guys decide will be painted different, will be painted a contrasting color. It would be submitted to staff for review.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think the main question now is, what elements, I know that, it sounds like the foundation is definitely something that we would want to add. And are there any other things? I know there's a little bit of discussion about how, what other elements you might, so.
I think we all agree on the columns, and we all agree on the windows.
just show a contrast and that kind of
Right.
element. I think if they choose to go ahead and paint the brick, then we make sure that that choice is according to what it was already supposed to be.
Sure.
Earth
Right.
tone.
And so what I need to make sure we have is what does the commission want to require be repainted. So,
And I think everybody's in agreement about the foundation, but Brown just mentioned that he's okay with the trim being white as is, but I think that's what we need to clarify.
Sure.
right.
I personally think that the trim and things is what's causing it to be washed out.
What color?
It's so I feel like there does need to be some difference in that because of how light the brick was.
Do you want to leave that to planning also?
Let them once they. I would say the owner probably would be that if planner would give them options that could look better for trim wise and everything. Let the owner select it then. But
So what about this? The way the condition reads now, it talks about differentiation, 2 different colors, and it talks about differentiating between the brick, the foundation, the wood, and the siding. And then talks about the earth tones. What if we just added to the end of that, it says, 1, but not both, of the existing colors may remain?
I like it.
Does it make sense?
yeah,
Because that gives them the flexibility to either paint the trim and the foundation or paint the brick.
Why don't you make the motion?
Sure, happy to. Any other discussion before I attempt making a motion?
I just wanted to say, like, I agree with what everybody's saying, and I do think we need contrast. I do think that maybe giving some input, but just going back and looking at the original photos, you got one color for the brick, you got the trim, the base, the columns, all the same color, and then the siding is a different color. So there's a contrast. There's 3 different options, right? So I think if we follow through on that same concept with this house, then we'll get that contrast that we're looking for without necessarily denoting exactly what the colors are, just knowing that we need to provide between the brick, the trim and base, and the siding, there needs to be contrast.
yeah.
Well, that's a good point. Just is that do we want to codify that, or do we just want to make that suggestion? Because if we did, we could probably change the exterior shall consist of at least 3 colors instead of 2 colors. Or do you want to just make that as a suggestion?
I think what I was trying to say was what you were saying was fine. I just wanted to point out that there is that option. Like she was saying, if they do decide to paint the brick itself, then there are options of how to get that contrast between the trim and the siding.
Yeah, I agree. I think we can say it in a way that's least restrictive, but maybe there's a suggestion to the applicant that, there are 3 colors, you might consider that. And also, to your, kind of along the same line, the original house has a little bit more warmth to it than the cool tones that you've chosen so far, or the homeowner has chosen so far. So that might be something you think about as you move forward. So. Okay, so I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve COA 2024-157, 1727 Euclid Avenue, as with these 4 conditions, except that in condition number 1, we'll add to the end that 1 but not both of the existing colors may remain, and we'll add an additional condition that the porch columns. 4 new porch columns shall be added to match roughly the original spacing on the corners.
Original column configuration.
Original column configuration. Agreed.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposed? All right. Motion carries.
Thank you, both of you. Appreciate y'all coming down here. Back to item number 2. Is the applicant here? I don't think they are.
Do not believe so. So
Okay.
we will hear that next